So this module looks at listening skills, something we all think we do well, but actually we probably run the whole gamut of the 7 levels of listening. I certainly do. Now the first level is all about not listening itself. This is not paying attention to or ignoring the other person's communications completely. Second level is where you pretend listening. You act like you're giving the impression you're paying attention to someone else, but actually you're not really paying attention at all. Your thoughts are elsewhere. Then there's partially listening, only focusing on part of the person's communication, only giving your divided attention. Focused listening, here you give the other person your undivided attention to what they're saying. Interpretive listening, this goes beyond just paying attention, but really trying to understand what the other person is saying. There's interactive listening, being involved in the communications by asking clarifying questions or acknowledging understanding of what's being said. And then there's engaged listening. Being fully engaged in communications involves listening to the other person's points of view, their feelings, their values, and both parties feel that there's this interaction. So what are the characteristics of effective and ineffective listeners? Well, there are various different levels to look at this. The first is looking at non-verbal behaviour. An ineffective listener will look bored or uninterested or judgmental and will tend to avoid eye contact, whereas an effective listener will maintain positive posture and avoid distracted behaviour. And there's a focus of attention. An ineffective listener shifts focus to the self and talks about his own accomplishments. Me, me, me. Whereas an effective listener keeps the focus of comments on the other person. Acceptance. Ineffective listeners don't accept other people's feelings or ideas. They tend to make their suggestions first, upset if they're not taken, whereas an effective listener accepts ideas and feelings and asks for more information before making recommendations. Empathy is vital to good listening. Ineffective listeners fail to see or hear other people's points of views, whereas a good listener will try and put him or herself in the other person's shoes. Then there's probing. A poor listener will fail to probe or follow up for additional information, whereas a good listener will probe in a helpful way without having to play 20 questions. Paraphrasing is a very good sign of whether good listening is happening. Ineffective listeners fail to check whether or not the message was received accurately, whereas a good listener will paraphrase and restate what he or she thought the other person said. And finally, there's the area of advice. An ineffective listener narrows a choice by suggesting the best solution early on in the discussion. I've got this solution, I know exactly what the answer is. Whereas a good listener will ask for suggestions from the other person as well as providing their own alternatives. And so I suppose it begs the question, what kind of listener are you?